We did say,
We didn't do the roll call.
at the end, we said he
Who doesn't
wasn't here.
remember?
We're on?
All right. We'll do the roll call, please.
Mrs. Zoni?
Here.
Mr. Morrison?
Yeah.
Mr. Bedoin?
Here.
Mr. Pocock?
Here.
Mr. Lebenik?
Here.
Chairman Leary?
I think Chairman Leary should be here momentarily. So we'll do the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are we good? Do you want to
We're good.
announce anything or just get started?
No, I gave my little intro last time, but once again, this is the second round of the department heads. Amelia and I are very proud with the budget that we submitted to you, and we're very proud of the department heads and the work they did. And I think you'll be just as proud as you hear them give their presentation. And our first up is our Public Works Director, Keith Hayden.
Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, Keith Hayden, Director of Public Works. So tonight I'm going to present the engineering department budget, the sewer admin, and then I'll talk about some of the capital projects that we're working on. So the engineering department budget is $667,306, which is a zero increase budget, same as last year. The sewer department for the admin, which is the two ladies that do the billing, is
Page 139.
$159,195. And the current request asks for an additional $320, which is a 0.2% increase. And what that $320 represents is the contractual meal allowance. In the past, the ladies had not gotten meals for when they worked Thursday nights, so we put $100 as a placekeeper in, but they've informed me that they'd like to take advantage of the contractual meal allowance, so that just brings us up to what's required by the contract. So other than that, it's a zero increase budget. So the engineering department, the overview of our service and benefits and programs. We provide technical assistance to all the town departments, boards, commissions. We do plan reviews, zoning permits, CO inspections. We staff the P&Z Commission, Sewer Committee, Public Works Committee, the Sewer Plant Upgrade Building Committee. We also represent the town on CROG Transportation Committee and the Municipal Services Committee. We inspect and provide construction administrative services for public improvements and private developments. We provide design services, which is survey design, preparation of bid documents, construction plans, estimates, contract admin for town projects that we build. We also take the capital improvement projects for the town, and we help other departments with bidding and the construction administration and inspection for those projects. We provide engineering support for the sewer plant upgrade and the pump station replacements, which we've been doing on average about one a year in past years and for the foreseeable future. We also have recently designed sewer mains, the Blatchley sewer main, the gravity sewer line. We did that in-house. And we also help out and kind of work with finance on the capital improvement plan for different projects. We also administer the following projects and functions: the sidewalk inspection and replacement program, excavation permits, contractor licensing, sewer permits for connections and repairs, trench repairs for utility cuts. We update the GIS reference to new maps and input the sewer inspection cards. We do grease trap inspections, sewer line inspections. We also do lining and repairs. We work with the sewer department right now and do about $500,000 a year in sewer lining, which really does a couple things. It also cuts down on our I&I, which is the inflow into the system. And it also is eliminating some of the perpetual backups that we get, the problematic areas. We provide survey for town design and repair projects. We also survey for as-built plans, tree complaints. We do inspection and acceptance of subdivision infrastructures. We do the call before you dig markouts for the sewer through a contracted service. And we maintain a call before you dig database for permitting, roadway cuts and repairs. So anytime somebody cuts our road, we keep track of it. We go in the next spring, we hire a contractor, and we do final permanent patch on all those locations so we don't get settlement and the roads stay in better shape by doing that. We also handle drainage and tree complaints. For the tree complaints, we send out the surveyors to determine if it's a town tree or not, and then we hand it off to highways, and the tree warden makes a determination of what should be done with the trees. We also administer the Refuse Enterprise Fund and the Notice of Intent to Fill permits for less than 400 cubic yards. We also assist the Apple Harvest Committee, and we do the mapping for them for every year. And we also function as the facilities manager for the municipal center. For the sewer admin, basically it's two ladies that are in the engineering office, and they maintain the financial records for 11,667 sewer customers. And because we bill quarterly, that means they send out 46,668 bills. So that's quite a large volume for two women to handle that. And we also collect about $5.5 million annually, which operates the sewer plant. We track irrigation meters, 485 right now, and we enter those adjustments manually, and we'll subtract from people's bill what they put on their lawn that doesn't go down their drain. We also maintain records for outstanding sewer assessments, some dating back, 15, 20 years, some of them. We collect the yearly assessment payments and settlements at closings. We also receive numerous inquiries from residents and attorneys about account balances. We post sewer use payments received from walk-ins and at the counter and by mail. We also process the lockbox credit card payments and generate reports, do all the reporting for finance. We also lien delinquent accounts and then track the payments, and then have to process the removal of the lien when the payments are made. And we also calculate final bills for property closings, update the database with new owners' information, and we add new user accounts for construction. When I started coming to you folks 7 years ago, almost 7 years ago now, we had about 10,500 customers, and now we're up to 11,667. So an additional 1,100 customers. The town's growing. We're getting a lot of new sewer customers every year. We also receive sewer permit apps and respond to health department requests for sewer availability. And the reason for that is they won't allow people to repair their septic tanks if there's sewer in the street. So that's a lot of research on our part. We have to pull mapping and look up these individual requests. We also maintain sewer connection cards for every house or business that's connected, and that has a little diagram showing the whys and the connections. We also use those to assist in the call before you dig determinations. We also log in the building and zoning permit apps for review and sign off. We bill for groundwater remediation sites throughout town that discharge remediation water. It's pumped out of the ground into our system. We track grease trap installations. We do grease trap inspections. We receive sewer backup complaints and dispatch personnel from the plant to investigate and take whatever actions necessary. And then we also maintain a log of all those backups, and we keep track of all the sites. And then the sewer plant people put those on a schedule for regular maintenance and cleaning to, again, reduce the backups that occur. We also issue septage permits, make the daily deposits, and report all the transactions of finance, keep track of customer bankruptcy status, which determines whether or not we can bill them. And then the ladies have to stay current with all the software updates. So you asked for a unique engineering service that we provide that not too many people are aware of. So for the engineering department, That's the Ms4 program. And the Ms4 program is a program that's mandated by EPA and the DEP. And that's the general permit for the discharge of stormwater from small municipal separate storm sewage systems. Basically what that is anything that goes down the catch basins and eventually goes out to rivers. So we have to do annual reporting, and in that report, there's 6 categories that we have to show progress every year and report to the DEP and the EPA. One of them is public outreach and education. So every year we have to continue getting word out to the public so they don't dump things, pollutants in the catch basins, pick up after their dogs, things like that. We also do public involvement, participation. We have an illicit discharge detection and elimination, and what that involves is we have to inspect all the drainage outlets. There's 1,104 outlets in town. So a lot of this is bushwhacking through the woods or swamps, looking for the outlet pipe. We do a dry inspection to see if they're flowing during dry weather. We look for pollutants, and if there are, we have to follow up with testing and try and eliminate the source of the pollutants. We also do construction site runoff control, post-construction stormwater management, and pollution prevention, good housekeeping. So that's a lot of time, and the town doesn't receive any money from the DEP or EPA for that. So the last couple of years, we've got interns to help us out with some of the inspections, and this year we're going to try and pursue that as well. The unique service that the sewer admin provides that people don't really know about is I'd like to talk about real estate closings. So we get, I don't know, 40 or 50 a month, and when we receive a call from an attorney, we get a closing date, new owner. We have to coordinate with the water department for the final reading and the date of the reading. We have to calculate final bills, determine if there's any outstanding liens or assessments, track the closing dates, and then when that happens, update our system with the new owners. And that's during the summer with, sometimes you get five or more a day. So that interrupts the day. That those are time sensitive because you have to support the closing. So the ladies sometimes have to really scramble to get their job and fulfill all these other requests. Some of our recent projects that we've been working on under the capital program is the crosswalk paver replacement downtown. Right now we're about 50% done. We had to shut down for winter, and Lavero will start up in the winter and finish those. We recently completed the construction of Jude Lane intersection improvements. The town received a $591,000 grant for the construction under the Lot SIP program. Recently, Town Hall, we got the generator installed, fixed the handicap ramp drainage, and replaced the fence out on the Academy Street. We're working on actually just completed the design of the Spring Street Bridge replacement. For that, the town applied under the state, federal, local bridge program. So we're going to get a grant for 80% of the $2.4 million of construction costs, which is about $1.8 million. Right now, the design is at, it's a typo, not 1,005, that's 100%. And it's in DOT for final review. We're also working on the design of the Marion Avenue Bridge replacement, and we've applied for and received a Lot SIP grant for 100% of the estimated $1.2 million construction costs, and right now the design's about 60%. We had quite a bit of involvement with the State Historic Preservation Officer requiring test pits. There's a building within the project limits. One's on the Historic Register. Rochambeau drank beer there, and across the street there was a carriage bolt factory, the first in the nation. So we dug up in the yard and found a lot of carriage bolts. So we're going to take those artifacts that we found, and we're going to bring them to the Historical Society and add to their exhibit there. Also, the design of the Plantsville safety improvements is right about 90% now, and those plans are in review with CROG. And we also have applied for and received a Lot SIP grant for 100% of that construction which is estimated at $2.65 million. We're also working with DOT and VHB on the design of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail extension from Lazy Lane to the town line. So there's $3.2 million estimated construction, which is going to be 80% federal and 20% state. So that's no cost to the town. And right now, we're approximately 75% complete on that. We also, as I mentioned, we just designed the Blatchley Gravity Sewer, and the construction of that is about 90% complete. We had a total failure of the Blatchley pump station, so we're operating on an emergency basis with emergency pumps. So time's of the essence, but we're actually running ahead of schedule on that project. Contractors worked all winter long, hasn't missed a day really, so doing a really great job on that. And then once that's done, we've completed the design for the demolition of the Blatchley pump station. That's currently out to bid with a bid opening scheduled for March 9th. And we also did a townwide assessment and prioritization of the roofing and HVAC systems. And those you'll see in the capital program. We've added money this year for roofs and HVAC systems for town buildings. And we also, as of the end of January, we lined just shy of 6,800 feet of sanitary sewer. So now one of the questions that we were asked was, how does our function add value to the town? So right now, if you add up the grants from all the projects we're working on, it's about $9,835,000. Now, my office, we write the grants, we apply for the grants, we work with, I sit on the CROG Transportation Committee, where you can, pitch your projects. We've been very successful at getting these grants into town, and that's free money to the taxpayer. So that's a great program that we've been able to take advantage of. And then the question of how do we measure success? So I'd like to say that we improve the quality of life for residents, and part of that is the upgraded WPCA, putting new pump stations in, extensions to the trail. The first two are kind of behind the scenes, but having a reliable sewer system adds to the economic growth in town and really provides value to the taxpayers with increased taxes bringing in from new businesses. We also increase the safety. We replace deteriorated bridges and provide safety improvements on projects. And then consistent positive return on investment. So you're paying the engineering department $667,000. We're bringing in just shy of $10 million. So I think that's a good investment for your engineering department for the town. At this time, if you have any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I have no questions, I just have comment. Serving with you on the Public Works Committee, I have learned an awful lot about the work that you and your department do, and I'm very appreciative of everything. When I look around at other towns, at things that I see, and then I come back here, our town looks better, feels better in so many ways, and I feel like we're safer and we're in good hands. So
Thank you very much.
Just one thing, Keith, I wanted you to touch on. Last budget cycle, I lobbied you for an upgrade position in Keith's department from engineering and training to an assistant engineer for internal design. And I just want Keith to just touch base on that, how positive that was for us.
That was phenomenal. So I mentioned that we designed the Blatchley Gravity Sewer in-house. David did that. David also designed a sidewalk that's going to be added to the trail project. The DOT said they'd pay for construction if we designed it. So that's about $300,000 worth of construction costs that the town is benefiting from, designed by David as well. Right now, he's working on the addition to the high school parking lot. We're designing that for the Board of Ed. I think they have capital money in that as well. That's going to provide another, I think, 78 parking spaces. So David's very, very active in design. He's very competent. He's a great addition to our team. So for that, I thank you.
The grants you have shown here, they're all okay? They're not under threat for any reason, are they?
Those are not. No, we have a commitment to fund letters.
We have the letter in writing.
Do you have it in writing? Okay.
Yeah, before we can expend the funds, we get a commitment to fund from the
You can't
DOT.
spend a penny unless Amelia says you get the letter.
Yeah,
signed.
right, we're okay. Yeah. They're not going to have a change of heart. Thanks.
Not those particular
Yeah,
grants,
future
but
I understand.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Yeah,
night.
thanks for the presentation, this information, it's great. All
Next,
right.
I'd like to introduce the superintendent of highway parks, Annette Turnquist.
page 67.
Annette's going to touch base on a couple of other capital items. Most importantly, she's going to touch base on the roads in the capital, but also Phase 2 of the parks plan she's going to touch base on. So obviously, she's going to do her departments first and then touch base on those two items for capital.
Boy, I hope it's another 0%.
You know,
Well,
So, Mark, how does it work? Some
Wow.
part of it, like, Public Works, the raises were not in the budget, correct? But hers are, right?
Yep, because
So
those.
how does that?
Oh, because, well, Public Works, Keith is the Public Works division for engineering. So the staff you saw there.
Yep.
They are not in what I would call the Public Works Union, which consists of highway, parks, and water pollution control. That contract is settled. So that's why you see the raises in there.
Yeah.
I'm going to start by touching on the points that Chairman Leary asked us to discuss. The Highway Parks Department provides many services to the town, as I'm sure you guys are aware. The main ones are we maintain the roads, we maintain the storm drainage system throughout town, collect leaves, we plow snow, not so much this year, but I'm not complaining. We sweep the roads, we maintain the parks, the trails, the greens, and many other town properties. We also manage the transfer station. Our function adds value to the town by providing residents with safe roads to travel on, clean surroundings, and also recreation facilities. I believe that when people think about the Highway Parks Department, they think of road construction, maybe mowing in a town park. Of course, everybody knows we generally plow snow, but there are some lesser-known things that we do. For example, music on the green is organized through the Recreation Department, but the Highway Parks Department does the setup and the cleanup every week for that. Another thing that we get to do is the holiday decorating at Christmas time. You know, that's one of the more fun things we get to do. Everybody enjoys that. One thing we do that I'm very proud of is we provide assistance to many other departments. Just yesterday, we were here in Town Hall fixing a loose railing on one of the stairways. We get called all the time to move file cabinets, dispose of furniture that's no longer needed. We move pallets of food for community services, maybe about every other month. We move it from their building to their storage areas. Youth Services used to do Kristen's Closet, and we actually used to help move all the prom dresses from the water department to wherever they were holding the event. We've cleaned catch basins and patched potholes in school parking lots, and in turn, the Board of Ed has helped us out with things. We have a really good relationship with them. And also, our mechanics do oil changes on the treatment plant vehicles. So we're happy to help out in any way that we can. And all these little things we do save the town money, and they also promote good relationships between the departments. As for measuring the success of the department, I think there are several ways to do this. As I mentioned at the last Board of Finance meeting I attended, StreetScan did an evaluation of all our roads, and the roads that we worked on throughout the last several years rated very high. So this is one indication of success. You know, when I hear parents at a softball game say that, you know, the kids couldn't play on this field too much last year because it was too wet, you know, that's a measure of success for me as well, because I know that the improved field conditions are the result of a drainage project that we did. You know, when I drive to a neighboring town the day after a storm and their streets are still snow-covered, that indicates success to me. When I see a family walking on the trail, you know, there's things all over town that indicate success to me. There are always going to be outstanding projects and things I wish that we could do, but realistically, you know, we don't have unlimited time or staff or money, but I think the important part is to do the best we can with the resources we have, and I think we're very successful at doing this. So that being said, I have a few budgets to discuss here this evening. The first one is the Highway Parks Department operational budget. That's proposed at $3,694,909. This is $144,496 more than last year, which is a 4.1% increase. However, 99,138 of that is due to the salaries, which are a contractual obligation. So without the salaries, my increases are a 1.3%.
Let me just have Amelia explain why you double there.
Basically, last year, when we did the budget for this year, they didn't have a contract yet. So this is actually 2 years' worth of increases.
I didn't want anyone to think that they received a I know you're already looking at, oh my God, they got a 4.5% raise. That did not take place, but that's last year's numbers and this year's numbers too.
And if you look at the original budget versus the revised budget, eventually there'll be additional monies in the revised budget for this year. We just haven't transferred it over yet.
Like the salaries, several other increases are contractual obligations. Longevity increases from $6,550 to $8,150. Boots and foul weather gear, that's an increase from $12,800 to $14,400. And also meal allowances. The new contract changed how we handle this. The restaurants used to bill the town, and we had difficulties with this. We would receive the invoices months later. Some would charge a flat rate per guy. Some would charge for what they actually ate. We were spending way too much time on it. So now the employees pay the restaurants directly, and the town automatically reimburses the employees a set amount per meal. So I've proposed $15,500 for this, and that should cover approximately 2 meals per storm per employee for 18 events. It's the first year we're doing it this way, so we can revise that in future years to see how we do the first year. The performance contracting lease payment is another expense beyond the department's control. That increased from $3,765 to $3,813. Other increases include vehicle maintenance, grounds maintenance, signs, and the radio system lease. The vehicle maintenance is increasing by $15,000, and that's for truck washing. Rather than construct a wash bay for $410,000, which we looked at doing before, we're entering into a partnership with Truck Wash Central. It's a 5-year agreement, $38 per wash, and this eliminates the upfront cost of construction. It eliminates the ongoing maintenance that the wash bay would have required, and it also brings us into compliance with DEP. As for ground maintenance,
I just want you to blow by that because I know they know this already, but it's important that we look at public-private partnerships when we have the opportunity to do it. There was a new company coming into town, and Mr. Perillo brought it to our attention, and we met with the property owner to see, or the business owner to see whether he can service our trucks. And I sat down with Amelia, and we decided it would be better to build the truck wash for $410, which actually would have cost us more, than have all the maintenance. So this is not just a small thing. This is something that I want to look in the future, because why build a $450,000 truck wash on our site? We're going to have to maintain it, pay for all the utilities for it, as opposed to having a third party and benefiting a business in town. So
Do they come on site and do it, or
no,
you go to
we're bringing our trucks through them. They're going to be by not Bannerbowl, whatever the bowling alley is called now, but it used to be called Bannerbowl.
But it's right here, it's
Right,
local.
Yep, it's right down Mulberry Street. So it worked out very well, and we keep looking for, these are things that no one really knows what we're doing, but we keep looking for these opportunities, so we don't have to do that. So you'll be seeing Amelia and I coming to you later in the year to reassess that $410,000 and put it toward another use.
So it's not built yet? Is that
The truck wash is being built.
Being built.
Yeah, they got all the local approvals now. They're just waiting for deep. I'm sorry, Annette. Go ahead.
that's okay. For ground maintenance, I'm requesting an additional $10,000. So it'll go from $85,000 to $95,000. Last year, the actual amount we used was about $111,000, and the year before that, the actual amount was $90,000. Not only do the department's regular day-to-day maintenance responsibilities increase every year, but more significant issues seem to arise due to the age of some of our facilities. We've done things in the past like re-roof and make structural repairs to dugouts. Last year, we replaced the sand filter for Rec Park Pool with a cartridge system. This isn't necessarily due to age, but as I mentioned above in our success stories, that we undertook a drainage project at Panthorn for the Southern Girls Softball League, and some of the fields that weren't always able to be used can be used much more often now. We have a lot of in-house talent to accomplish projects like this, as long as we have the money for the material. So an additional $10,000 would be very helpful towards this. The signs account, my request is to double that account from $4,500 to $9,000. The signs are more expensive now due to the size and the high reflectivity, and it also seems that we have a lot more accidents and vandalism. We get a lot of calls that the street signs are just missing, and we have to replace them for emergency services. And the last increase was for the radio system lease, and that's only an increase of $420, and that's to account for a new radio and a piece of new equipment. The next budget I'll mention is the snow and ice budget. We increased this the last 2 years. I have no additional increases for this coming fiscal year. Bulky waste. The only account with an increase for this budget is refuse, recycling, and hazardous waste. I'm requesting an increase from $147,350 to $188,000. It's a $40,650 increase. It results in a 16.3% increase overall for the budget. The increase is due basically to two things. It's the household hazardous waste fees charged by the BRRFOC, and also due to increasing refuse fees. In fiscal year 18-19, the household hazardous waste fees were $7,380. Already in the current fiscal year, we spent $8,400. As for the refuse fees, in fiscal year 16-17, the average monthly fee was $7,125. The following year in 17-18, they increased to $8,030. The following year, they went up to $8,500, and for the first 5 months of this fiscal year, we're up to $9,706. So it just continues to increase. Therefore, we need to up that account. I have no increase proposed for the tree maintenance budget. For street lighting, the only increase, it's a 1.3% increase, and that's due to the performance contracting lease agreement. Finally, I want to touch on one capital project, which is the Parks Master Plan. I have a handout for that. The town had a Parks Master Plan done many years ago. Since that time, priorities have changed and various things have deteriorated. The previous plan recommended working in one park at a time. We were starting with Memorial, moving on to Recreation Park, and finishing with Panthorn. But we don't think that this is the best way to proceed at this time. Therefore, we've reworked the plan to include work at all three of the parks simultaneously. We're currently working on Phase 1, which includes a new playscape and renovations to the Concession and Restroom building at Memorial Park. We have $250,000 budgeted for the Memorial Park playscape. The site work began last summer. The site work will continue this spring, along with installation of the playscape. We already have all the equipment and storage at the Panthorn garage. We ordered everything last calendar year to get better pricing, so we're holding that till the weather breaks and the contractor is back on site. The Memorial Park Concession and Restroom building renovation has $500,000 budgeted for it. I actually just met with the contractor today, and plans are all done. We're hoping to begin the project sometime in April. The 2021 capital improvement plan includes Phase 2 of this Parks Master Plan, and we're asking for $770,000 for that phase. It includes tennis and basketball court rehabilitation, fence improvements, new bleachers installed on concrete pads, and material bins for both the town and the leagues, and this is at all three of the parks, the above-mentioned items. It also includes some tree work, some work to the ponds at Memorial and Rec, and replacement of the safety net around one of the baseball fields at Rec Park. The new plan also has phases 3 through 6, which I won't go into detail on, but that's what's outlined in the handout I gave to you. Mark, you wanted me to mention the road projects?
No, just simply that obviously we're hoping that the public supports us in November. That would be the building cycle 21. We still obviously have building cycle 20. So you'll see in the capital plan $600,000 in cash for the fiscal year coming up. And then we're also looking for additional funds in the capital plan that we hope to do for budget reallocation come April and May.
Mark, what's the system again that we're using to manage the roads? And there's a new one?
Yes, actually, you weren't here for the presentation, but
Sure.
we could explain,
Yep.
well, we can backtrack. You allowed us to budget some numbers that we did last year, and they evaluated the entire town, and that will take that one.
We hired a company called Street Scan. They came out in the fall, and they evaluated all the roads for us. They assign a PCI number, which is a pavement condition index. It's 0 to 100, 0 being the worst, 100 being the best. The town's average was a 76, which is pretty good. But we do have some roads that are in the 30s, so we have some work ahead of us. Along with this service, we were provided a computer program called Street Logics, and all the data is entered into it, and then there's a planning tool. It's very easy to use, so thank you for allowing us to get it. It's very helpful. But you can basically put in your budget for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, and it tells you which roads you should be working on first. Basically, it suggests the projects that within your budget that will increase the average PCI the most.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
What was didn't we have something similar that we put in place 6 or 7 years ago?
7 years
Was it
ago,
the
we had a
pavement management system?
Right.
And what happened to that?
Okay, what happened is over a 2-year period, we had a company doing the work for us, and we then took it over internally, and it did not, in my opinion, that's the reason I asked for the additional funds. In my opinion, it didn't work the way I'd like it to work, because it did have a lot of didn't have the specifics I was looking for. So when a resident said, well, why is this road being done as opposed to this road being done? Some of the answers were, well, they were already working up in this area, so we chose to use that, to do that road. That isn't the way I want to, as I explained to you last year, that's the way I'd want to approach the public. I want the public to look at the list and say, okay, here's how the roads, we're going to put X number of dollars in per year, and these are the roads that are going to be done. It takes all the subjectivity out of it, and what you want to do is you want to be able to tell the public, this is why we're spending your money. This is how it's going to happen. And if somebody wants to look up on the web and see where their road is, then they may be disappointed and see that their road is, 78 and it won't get to it for several years. But the bottom line is that they'll know where the road is going to fall. So I think this is something we did not have with the last one. And at this point, because I want to put the plan in place that we're going to be putting 10,000 in front of the public every 4 years, we need to prove to them that we know what we're doing. And what did I say?
You said 10,000.
10 million.
10 million.
We had a great deal on roads, so it's only 10,000. $10 million every 4 years. We want to make sure it's a plan that everybody looks at, and no one's going to do the famous line that we all hear. Oh, I know why that road was being done. I want to get that totally off the table, because all of us, at least I've heard that for many, many years. I just want to get that totally out of it.
Thank you. And I mean, that makes sense. I think, and this is going back now, what was it, 6, 7 years ago? So I remember at the time, and I think the concern was that, is this actually going to be maintained, and is there going to be an issue with that? And kind of was assured, yes, it will. There won't be any type of an issue. So I guess the same question. So you're saying this system, full confidence, this will not be, I guess, what is our contract? It's Street Scan, you said? What is our contract with them? How long?
We plan on having them well, every time we finish roads, it goes into the formula. But we plan on having them look at this, and I think Annette already talked about it, every 3 or 4 years, they're going to be looking at this, the same company.
As part of the program, once this construction season's over, I can put in what we did to the roads, and it updates the condition of those roads and recalculates the average PCI, and then we can use that for planning for the following year.
Okay.
And we can use it for maybe 3 or 4 years, the same data, updating it that way, and then they recommend that they come out and do another evaluation.
Which makes sense. And so, but you're fully confident that in terms of what you have to kind of track, maintain, input into the system, there'll be no issues with that whatsoever?
No, the program is so user-friendly.
Okay.
And I did attend a couple conferences on it, but it's user-friendly, they're responsive. I've had video chats with them. I mean, even if I do have questions, they're very available. But so far, the program is very simple to use.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal piece of software. It really is good. I enjoyed your presentation on it.
Oh, thank you. Any other questions?
I've got a few on various subjects.
Okay.
First, just go back in reverse order. The phase 2 for the parks, which is in for 770. What if we don't do that this year? What if we pushed it off a year? What would the ramifications be?
Well, we get a lot of
It's an open question.
Yeah,
It's not a-
no. We get a lot of phone calls about certain things, one of them being tennis courts, the condition of the tennis courts. We do have some cracks. They do need refurbishing. In the past, we've done, some crack sealing, which is a temporary fix. So, I mean, that's just one example, but these facilities are going to continue to deteriorate if we don't address them now, and then repairs just get more expensive.
Okay, understood.
Mark, for the capital projects, you determine the priority list, right?
Well, I have input. I take input both from.
Right, and then you have
David, and then because I didn't like the, perfectly blunt, when they showed me the plan and they showed me we're gonna handle one park at a time, I don't like that idea. If you're gonna do tennis courts, let's get all the tennis courts done, let's get all the, so I like to do it that way. So when we sat down, with one of my guidance was simply, let's do it in a more logical way than just spending all this money on one park, getting a great park, and while the other two parks are falling apart. I didn't like that. So anyway, this I think is a much better way of doing it. And I know, and all I can say, Tony, is the fact that these have been pushed off for a lot of years. So,
okay.
and I understand everything is financial, but Annette's answer is very good in the fact that they become 1 year older and 1 year more expensive next year if we don't do it.
Okay. Just a quick one on the highways. The projected amount for this year is about 3.4 million, and against the budget of 3.5 million. What was the discrepancy there? What was the difference between what we thought we needed for the budget and what actually is projected to happen? It's about 130K difference.
For the year that we're in now?
Yes, 2020, right. Which is the base you use, obviously, to calculate next year. I think there's one projected figure missing, which is gasoline, I think.
Yeah,
But-
I think
but
they just missed that line item.
They missed that line up,
Yeah.
but that's not 130K, that's probably 60, 70K.
Right.
We make, the question is, if we made savings, real savings this year, can we still continue to have them, going into next year?
I do. I'm not sure if there is real savings in here. I'd have to
So it's a math
review
error?
it.
It's a math
Yeah,
error.
there might be some projections that are off, is my estimate. But the gasoline's off, a few of them.
We'll look at that.
Yeah,
and send it out.
Yeah,
We'll get an
I'll send
email
it
out
out
to
to
all
you.
of you guys this week.
It's not a huge amount, I'm
Yeah.
just curious about. And the last,
Yeah, 100 and,
last question was on bulky waste.
Yes.
Obviously, as it's going to go up with the hazardous waste going forward, is it time we started talking about maybe should the town run it? Or is it one of those, something for a public-private partnership?
Household hazardous waste?
The bulky waste, yeah, the town dump.
Bulky waste. not-
Bulky
Oh.
waste, bulky waste. So the hazardous waste fees are going up over time. They'll continue to, obviously. Is it time to start thinking we could do that in another way, or? I know it's a very popular program, but this is a financial question. Okay.
Well, the increase for the bulky waste budget is mostly due to the household hazardous waste collection.
Right.
And then the refuse fees going up, which we really don't have control over. The household hazardous waste is done through the BRFOC. And basically, various towns hold them. Our residents can attend them, and then we get sent an invoice with a particular price per resident, which is where these fees come from.
Right.
We can look into hosting one, but we would still pay the same fee, basically. And I don't think household hazardous waste is something you want to collect on our own at the transfer station, because it'd be very costly to get rid of.
Yeah, understood. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I could tell you that there's two things that could be taken a look at, and both of them, it's both policy decisions that are above my pay grade. One of which is having the transfer station run an operational fund, which we used to call sinking funds. But that's a question that has to be answered
Yes,
as we go down.
council.
Yeah, that's a town council decision. The other one would require an RFP, and they'd be operating on our land. Because obviously, unless they have their own land, they can just move it to their own land. That always makes me leery of people taking in stuff on town property, but everything's an option, so that would be a policy decision the council would have to look at through advice from this board.
Yeah, it's a financial question at
Yep.
the moment. It's not a. So.
I have no comment.
No, I don't think so.
I'd
Is
just
that
like
the difference,
to,
Amelia?
That and the gas had no production.
Even though I said we'd get to you later this week, these two want to handle it right now, so.
Well, we can handle part of it.
If we can find the answer, we'll give it to you.
Oh yeah, don't look. It's okay. It's just.
Mrs. Zoney had a question.
I'm sorry.
no, again, I just had a comment, similar to what I said to Keith. I thank you for your work. I thank you for what you've done on Public Works Committee. Tony's question was answered there, and I did bring that to Finance Board, the bulky waste, the BRFOC thing. So I'll talk with Tony about what we talked about for the hazardous waste, so that he's brought up to speed on that again. Thank you.
So part of that discrepancy might be the contracted services, which most of that is used for leaf collection. But we had a snowstorm at the end of the fourth week of leaf collection. So normally we have a lot of contractors for the fifth week, but we weren't able to with the snow. We finished it on our own in the 6th, 7th, and 8th week. So it dragged out a little long. It did save us some money, but it cost us quite a bit in time.
It's not a savings that can be replicated unless the weather.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Got it.
I don't control that yet.
We don't want to wish for snow during leaf season.
Thanks.
And we'll correct the projection in the gasoline.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the next person we
Calendar
have
House.
obviously is the Calendar House. Mr. Verderam is here to answer any questions you
Senior
have.
Services. Welcome, Mr. Verderam.
Thank you. Thank you. Amelia?
Shall we?
Great.
Page are we on? What page?
You're recusing yourself again?
Eddie, just give yours to Sue or somebody, because I know you got one. but I got 7.
Actually, give him that. Well, he and I can share, just so he has something to look at.
Thank you.
There you go. So you can't even look at them.
Just since we don't have minutes to this, but we are on TV, I just want to acknowledge the fact that Mr. Polcock is not taking part in this particular section, so he won't be asking any questions.
No. I understand.
Acknowledge that he has done what the ethics code requires him to do.
Correct.
And the budget's on 87. Page 87.
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and we have a 0 budget for this coming year, with the exception of the wages. Okay, so, John, thank you for the contribution of what we should write tonight, but I do have in front of you some figures for you and what we do, and I'd like to read a little bit of it for you. Okay, Calendar House adds tremendous value to the town of Southington. Calendar House serves as a resource center to the town's senior citizens and disabled individuals, providing a broad range of services, activities, socialization, nutrition, and reinforcing positive attitudes and preserving individual dignity. Calendar House is an intake site for the state of Connecticut Renters Rebate Program for people over age 65, those who are totally disabled. The program, which runs from May to September, assisted over 369 applicants. Calendar House is also the intake site for the Energy Assistance Program and runs from October to March, and the total was 235 applications. Calendar House is also an established site for the AARP TCE tax counseling for the elderly in partnership with the IRS. Calendar House also offers a wide variety of fine arts, crafts, classes, including acrylic painting, drawing, watercolor, painting pastels, adult color, poetry, and quilting. Calendar House offers several fitness classes that are very well attended. We currently sponsor one line dance, one dancercise class, 4 physical fitness classes, and the cardio room is a well-utilized area for which we have a new one, and the fitness center. And in 2019, we saw our members check in to use the cardio room 5,712 times. So it's getting its use. In addition, we do have in the new building, a new pickleball court, and that's a very new program, and it's very exciting to the people. We have at least 18 averaging 3 days a week attending. We also have a paved walking track around the building, especially for the nice days. They come in and check in. In response to sustained interest in health and wellness programs, we have educational programs, especially on Wednesday, sponsored by the hospitals. Okay, we have AARP, AT&T. We've had them use write grants for us, and we've accepted them. The Senior Lunch Program, known as the Senior Community Cafe, provides a well-balanced nutrition meal to the seniors Monday through Friday. During fiscal year 2018-19, we served 10,751 meals over 245 days, and that averages to 45 meals per day. We have a lot of special events that we have AquaTurf. We have a lot of events at Calendar House. We have some at Hawks Landing. We also have programs as far as Golf League at Hawks Landing, complete with a 22-week schedule, banquet, and 2 picnics. The Bowling League, we have 125 in there. That's at Banner Bowl that Mark had said.
What is that called?
I'm not sure
I call
myself.
Banner Bowl anymore.
I go by Banner Bowl. We're showing our age, I guess. So we also have a billiard room and a ping pong room, so that is well utilized. And I like to tell everybody, and when they come in, I says we haven't got a raise in our budget in the last 6 years, but I did get a $9.4 million building, so, and I'm very happy with it. Very happy with it. So it's very good. You asked to showcase 1 or 2 unique services. A lot of people don't realize this, but a significant number of individuals come into the Calendar House requesting information and assistance with Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, case assessment, and state entitlement programs. Those that are new to receiving Medicare benefits may make an appointment with our trained staff or volunteer choices counselors who assist them through the Medicare A, B, C, and D. Pre-retirement health benefits workshops are held periodically throughout the year in order to keep members appraised of the changes occurring at the federal and state level. One of the other things that I'm sure all of you know about is our Dial-A-Ride program. During the fiscal year 2018-19, July 1st through June 30th, our Dial-A-Ride buses provided Southington residents age 55 and older and disabled individuals with 16,613 one-way rides, averaging 1,384 one-way rides per month. So we're doing our job there. Our Dial-A-Ride also brings at least 10 or 12 people. This is individuals that are handicapped and challenged to employment. So we help out the town with that also. And a lot of families are very happy with that. How do I measure the success of the function? Calendar House measures its success by the feedback we receive from our members based on the service we provide. It is rewarding to hear how much a ride is appreciated, how much someone enjoyed a Calendar House function, and the Calendar House fills their need in a senior citizen's life. The department has managed to operate in a large facility with increased demand without an increase to the budget or staffing. 2019, our members checked in to the Calendar House 40,656 times. We have a Schedule Plus now, and that handles all these numbers that I'm giving you. And we've had that for over a year now. The totals do not include the amount of dial-a-ride riders that we have and a few other things that we have there. But it's nice to see when someone comes into Counter House, they say, I don't know what I would do without this place. So it's very good. So we've helped out, well, I've helped out a number of people, and now my staff is too, because we're Choices Counselor, and I'm also a municipal agent for the elderly. And it's nice to see somebody come in, they're all nervous and they're crying, and when they leave, I've given them enough to stand by and get their day going well, especially with the social services. Budget-wise, I've worked on a lot of grants. One of the 2 grants that we have that I maintain is the matching grant for the Dial-A-Ride program, and I also have a number of grants that I have for occupying buses, an 80/20, which is a 5310 federal and state grants. Okay.
Excuse me, we have an amateur radio club meeting down in the basement. Somebody closed the door out downstairs. Does anybody know the combination to the meeting room in the basement?
I'll go down and open it for you.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing.
Take over.
Are there any questions?
How's the building holding up?
Pretty good, pretty good. I mean, some things are not falling apart, but need to be fixed, and between Mark and I and Keith and Annette, they've all helped me out. It's going okay.
Were they flaws in the construction or conditions, subsequent things that happened after?
There's some flaws in the construction that I found out after. Yep. Also, we have a lot of hard water in our area, and it kind of clogged up the manifolds in one of the sinks in the ladies' room, but we got that running. It's something that we have to deal with. So we have to get softeners, and we have to get the filters put in there. So that's something that, in time, and Mark has the money, and we've gone over that. So we're going to be putting them in. So a few things are there, a few things that have to be done. With the bigger building, yes, and bigger lawn, bigger sidewalks, bigger parking lot. Probably need money down the road. Right now, in my equipment maintenance, which is very small, I've done a lot to maintain a few things, but in the beginning we had a little HVAC problems, then we got into plumbing problems, so a few things are going here and there. But I probably would like to ask in the next fiscal year that I see a little bit of raise in the building maintenance and the equipment maintenance to sustain the
Because the
building.
building's bigger?
Absolutely.
Yeah, when
Absolutely.
we built the new middle schools, the whole board was concerned that the new schools, bigger schools, would consume more custodial services,
Yes.
and if you don't, they're just going to get, in disrepair quickly.
Absolutely.
We don't want to see that happen, so
No.
if mid-year, or I think maybe I speak for the whole board here,
I agree.
if mid-year or something pops up and you're saying, we're not able to provide maintenance on this, this, and this because the building's bigger than the budget,
Yes.
let us know.
Beautiful.
Before we
Okay,
find
thank
out
you.
later
Yeah.
that we didn't
No, I
clean
will
the
let you
gutters
know.
or
Yeah.
something.
I'll let you know. I like the Orchard Valley Garden Club. They help me out with the plantings and with the flowers, so they're a great help, and they do that. I give them the place on a Saturday to have them raise money, so it's a good wash and it's very good. So I'm connecting with the outside.
I mean, it's not often here, and I'm not asking for it all across the board, but it's not often we hear people come back. I guess our budgets are decent or they have enough in them, but it's not often we have people come back and raise their hand and say, I have an issue that we need to address.
I will do that.
There's transfers that occur and people take care of it within their budgets, but if there is something, we have a new building there, we have programs, like you said, people are enjoying it, 40,656 people.
That's right.
Of check-ins a year. If something's going wrong, tell us before we find out later something really went wrong and we have to deal with it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks for all the services you offer
Thank
the
you.
elderly. Because one day,
Thank you.
I'm going to be on the bus that Ed's driving.
I'm not saying
Got to come to the Board of Finance meetings. You must-
You said you hadn't had an increase for 6 years.
Excuse me?
You said you hadn't had an increase for 6 years.
Yes.
How have you managed to run the place without it? I was curious as to... Because you've got unit
I do a
contracts.
lot of transferring.
Yeah.
A lot of transferring, and we have some people there at Calendar House who are in construction that come there, play pool. So if something breaks down, they're willing to fix it. We've had plumbers there that are willing. This is the old building, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're willing to fix it. So I've done my part, and they've done their part to help out. It's called the Membership Association, and they're fantastic. I have over 100 volunteers there also, and they help out too.
Do you have
They're all
other
willing
sources
to
of revenue in addition to this budget?
The membership has a small amount. Yes, they do. It's probably around 20,000, and they work on programs with that, and they pay for the DJs and the entertainment, and they offset the prices for like Christmas parties, Italian night, Polish night, and all that. So they subsidize it. So that's where that money goes. So it's very worth it and very nice of them to do that.
Okay.
And they're great to work with. They've been doing it for 34 years.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that? Thanks. Is that?
Thank you, Bob.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, next we have the Planning and Building Department. We have our Director of Development, Rob Phillips, and our building official, John Schmiegel. I think he's, John, they're both here, so whoever wants to come up. Page
102 for building.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, members of the Board of Finance, Town Council, and members of the public. I'm John Smigel. I'm the building official. And the Department of Buildings consists of me, an assistant building official, an electrical inspector, mechanical inspector, secretary, and an office assistant. The building department main focus is permitting, plan review, and inspections as required by the state of Connecticut Building Code. We also respond to fire and or police call-outs when required because of structural concerns and or electrical hazards. Additionally, we answer questions from homeowners, business owners, contractors, real estate agents, both code questions and other questions pertaining to their properties. Another item that we're very involved with, especially in the past few years, is freedom of information requests, both for the residential properties and commercial properties, which may come from real estate agents, homeowners, lenders, and or others. As far as customer service, myself and my inspectors all have set office hours, so contractors always know that they can come in, they can talk to them in those particular hours. After the set morning hours, there's basically a 2.5-hour window for an inspections in the morning, then another 2.5 hours of inspections in the afternoon, and then another hour of office time for people to either call them or come in, as well as that 2.5-hour inspection window. My inspectors are now leaving their schedule with the secretary or office assistant, so people can either call it. If they don't call us in time when we leave there at 9:30, our staff will know at what point in the schedule that they are. And it's not exact. Well, you know, if it says 3rd, and there's 6 inspections for the morning, they can sort of figure out, well, it's going to be between this time and this time. So it really shortens the window rather than saying, oh, they'll be out there between 9:30 and 12. We could really shorten that window down, and people seem to be appreciative of that. The state of Connecticut has adopted a new version of the building code every 2 years for the past 6 years, which is really getting us, because it's getting us in line with the latest version of the adopted code in a much more timely fashion, which gives the town a better rate and lower insurance rates, because that all figures into that. The only increase with the budget will be for longevity and dues and conferences. And the dues and conferences part of my budget also includes those code books, which we are in a much more, we have to literally buy them every 2 years, and there's more of them to buy now than there's ever been. The building department revenue for fiscal year 1920 was $801,611. In closing, I would like to thank the Board of Finance for all their hard work with the town of Southington budget.
Boy, that was quick and easy, huh?
Usually is.
Thank you.
How do you measure success? How do you know if you're doing well providing your service in terms of customer service, our comparability to other towns around us? What do contractors and customers think of the service? Do we have any gauge as to that?
For the most part, I have mostly positive feedback in dealing with contractors and homeowners that may not like to hear what we say, especially if they're in violation of the state building code. They're not always happy with us, but we literally do bend over backwards to try to smooth the situations out. We have a pretty much, we do have a pretty positive rapport, especially with all our contractors that we see almost every day in some instances. So I get only positive feedback from them the majority of the time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Rob Phillips, Director of Planning and Community Development. Thank you for inviting me to discuss the budget request and what our department really does on a daily basis. So just to kind of bring it all in a nutshell, this position basically is kind of oversees the building department as well too. So kind of it's all brought under the same umbrella, and it's important to note that because it's not necessarily widely known that that's the way the structure is set up. But I'll focus on the planning and zoning aspect of it since John covered the building aspect of it fairly well. Basically, we provide planning services or planning type, long-term planning with the plan and conservation development needs to be updated every 10 years. And then our zoning regulations, our subdivision regulations are all tools that we use to basically perform the plan of conservation development, bring it to fruition. So that's kind of the long-range planning aspect of it. And then there's also the kind of the current planning or the short-range planning, which is basically plan review. Anything that is developed in town or preserved will come through our office in one way or another. It's either through the land use commissions that we staff, Planning and Zoning Commission, the Wetlands Commission, and the Zoning Board of Appeals. It comes through one of those boards or through a site plan, subdivision, special permits, special exceptions, variances to the zoning regulations, or down to the basic department level permitting, which is zoning permitting, building permits, zoning permits, building permits, and those types of things. So basically anything that moves out there and gets put on the ground or changed and modified in any way is something that we review with land use commissions or as staff in the department. We also provide zoning enforcement services, blight enforcement. We're part of that program. Wetlands, I mentioned that as well too, which includes preservation. We staff various other or assist various other commissions like the Open Space Acquisition Committee and any other pop-up subcommittees that may come into play. Right now, we currently have a couple of ongoing subcommittees. One is the Plan and Conservation Development Review Committee, and also our zoning, Continuous Improvement Zoning Regulations Committee. I just met with them at 5 o'clock this afternoon, and we're looking at ways to make sure that we're keeping up with the Joneses with our regulations, and we're resolving sticky points or problematic areas of zoning regulations that we found. So we're constantly trying to evolve that tool and make sure that we're doing what we need to do, because our overriding goal is to work closely with engineering and public works department, or economic development department, and basically market Southington, make this a great place to work, great place to live, and kind of make sure that we're moving in a forward direction and doing what we can do. That's kind of the overview of what we do. Question came up about showcasing one or two unique services or service levels. I'd like to say we're a very, very exciting department, and there's all kinds of flashy things going on, but what you see out there in the community is probably what our most visible impact is. But I would say that for the general public that may not know, we do have a fast track type process where we have meetings every other week, and sometimes we can pull a meeting spontaneously if necessary, and we just have to get all the staff together. But basically, I lead those meetings, and we have engineering representation, we've got economic development, and water, fire, health department, building department, and we just try to make sure that we serve as a resource for anybody who has questions about maybe they're going to submit an application, or they're thinking about submitting some kind of a permit or what have you, that we're a resource. We have everybody there in the same room, and we can provide basically one-stop shopping for them, and makes the process much more understandable and easier to navigate, because not everybody knows how land use works, really. So that's probably the number one thing. We do have a land use development review guide that's actually on one of the links in the front page, in the yellow box on the right-hand side. You can click on it, and you can kind of understand that we have expectations that we'll meet for the applicant, reviewing things within 2 weeks, for example, but we also have expectations coming back our way. They need to respond to us in timely fashion so that we can continue that process forward. So it's kind of like an expectation level. We also have flow charts in there to kind of help explain a little bit of the process for permitting and land use, although it's very basic and not every application is the same. So we do our best, basically, to try to educate the public in that sense, and help with developers and contractors. How we measure success, I'd like to say we get a lot of constructive feedback on a regular basis. So, certainly if somebody's having an issue, I'll hear about it, and we try to resolve that the best way possible and as expeditiously as possible. I do also have a kind of a comment box that's posted outside our office, but it's seldom used. But we have talked about internally having a questionnaire of some sort that I guess it was done in the past, and we may bring back again and try and see if we can elicit more feedback. But typically we'll get an occasional, thank you and great job, but mostly if we get anything, it's something that is an issue, and we resolve those issues as fast as we can. So that's kind of the way I can kind of measure the performance, is that how many complaints are we getting? The same complaints all the time? Maybe there's something we needed to fix, either structurally in the organization, or maybe it's in the regulations, and we just we address that as we go. So otherwise, most people really don't know what we're doing because unless they're invested in something that's going on in the town currently. And again, now onto the budget, you'll see that there's really basically a 0% increase except for wages, and an increase in the membership to the Capital Region Council of Governments, which is a very valuable membership for a variety of reasons on a number of levels. So there's really, unless you have questions on anything specific, it's pretty much maintained the status quo. So I'll take any questions if there's anything.
This is a wide-ranging question, actually. It goes beyond the budget into later years, but we spoke with Lou Perillo yesterday, and Lou, like we all sort of realize, says the growth in the grand list is, we get 3/4 from residents, and from commercial and industrial to build up that, and the personal property would probably be the smartest way to go. If the town desires that kind of development. So how are we set for that in terms of the land available that's zoned for commercial and industrial?
I don't have the off the top of my head the approximate acreage that's left to be developed, and we do have a lot of redevelopment, refit. I can tell you, this is my 7th year here. When I came in, there was I guess the old Hartford buildings over there on West Street and Pratt & Whitney were basically empty, and they've all been filled. As I understand, the stock of industrial lots, maybe for more of the incubator or startup businesses, is pretty much extinguished. We got to look at creating more of those opportunities. But in general, and as I always say, is that commercial industrial uses, they really subsidize the residential tax liability. Otherwise, everybody would be paying a lot more in taxes. And it's really, really important to keep a balance of all of those and keep all three of those sectors kind of thriving, to try to make sure that if there's any economic decline or any economic impact of something, that like the housing market, or businesses or the economy as a whole, that you can kind of withstand those kind of changes in market fluctuations. And as I understand, during the economic downturn of the Great Recession, Southington didn't take as hard a hit as some other towns. I can tell you, I worked in a different town and everything stopped. There was nothing going on, and that was a problem, especially if you're over-reliant on residential taxes just to pay for the services.
Okay, I'd be grateful to get that information if you've got it on the amount of land use, but
I can work with Lou and
it's not a thing that we need for the budget. It's just a curiosity.
As long as we have something available to meet the market demands, and that's the key.
Maybe, Rob, you can do a brief presentation at the next strike committee meeting, because I know Tony's on that, and therefore he can bring it back to this board.
Okay.
We have a strike committee meeting, I believe, in March.
Yeah, March.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
I have one question. With zoning enforcement, do we seek out irregularities and address them, or do we just respond to either a complaint that comes in or something new?
I would call it a mixture. We're not driving through residential neighborhoods looking for issues. So in that sense, if we get a complaint, we're going to follow through on it. We don't just ignore it. But when you're commercial corridors, when there's more activity, like for example in signage, every business is trying to compete with another business, and they're trying to maintain the same level of advertising basically and interest. That's always a problem because it's always a one-up situation. So we do perform regular basically inspections along those major corridors to make sure that we're keeping all the businesses on a level playing field. That's really what it is. So, when one puts out a temporary sign, the next door neighbor is going to put one out too. So it's a situation.
And the vans that people buy and park them, that's all part of it? You buy a van, you have it all lettered, you park it out in your parking lot, that just doubles the amount of signs?
Yeah.
You watch all that stuff?
That was a discussion recently at Planning and Zoning, and basically it was determined as a policy that if you have a van and you park it out in front on the street, you got to park it somewhere on the site. I mean, and they're going to choose to put it out front, and it was okay if there was a van parked in a parking space, as long as it was in a single parking space and not taking out 2 or 3 at a time. So that was a discussion to kind of clarify our policy moving forward on that, because that became an issue in the last couple of years. It's very much a cat and mouse game.
The van had to be for a business in that particular strip mall.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't get that. You park the van there all day long and they're not even in that strip mall. So.
And again, we're not out there trying to make life miserable for people. We're just trying to make sure we create a level playing field. Otherwise, the complaints come to us.
Does that include accessibility to buildings? Do you get involved in that?
Yeah, working with the building department, if we provide necessary accommodations, whatever may be necessary, and we actually advise the zoning board of appeals when the case comes up that this is something you really should allow because it's an ADA type thing. Yeah.
I get a couple of questions, maybe 2 or 3 complaints a year on accessibility, and I do follow up on them and offer either options for the person making the complaint, or I try to get the whatever is not in compliance into compliance.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
It means a lot to us, and it means a lot to the folks who are going to stream it and watch it on TV.
Hopefully a lot of them.
It educates the community. It's great.
Also, Robert, thanks. You're very helpful in the Open Space Committee because that's part I'm on there, so.
Yeah, thank
We do a
you.
lot.
That's an important aspect of it, too.
It really
so,
is.
Yep.
A lot of people don't
That's why
realize.
there's plan of conservation and development.
That's right.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the last department we have tonight is Chief Butler in the Fire Department.
Page 55.
Well, welcome, fire commissioners, chief, deputy chief.
55. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have handouts.
Paul, how are you doing today?
Thank you.
Fire department will always have a handout. Always.
In red.
In red, absolutely.
This one's flammable.
It's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
And gifts.
Oh, wait.
Well,
Wait a minute.
Wait, there's more.
Oh,
now,
So this is our point that we just received today. This is celebrating our department's 135
Oh.
years. These are challenge points.
Wow, 135 years?
PD.
you're the first group to receive them.
Oh, wow.
Jeez, 135.
100.
Oh, wow.
That's correct.
approved, the budget's approved. All set.
Good enough.
Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead and begin. And kind of go through the fire department a little bit. You know, I'm in my 19th month of glorious employment. It's been an interesting time. But we'll give you a little overview of the department and kind of give you our mission statement. Basically, our budget does nothing but support our mission statement. And basically, ours is to protect life and property through prevention, code enforcement, fire suppression, rescue, and emergency medical services. That's what we're here to do. And as we move through, got to recognize our Board of Fire Commissioners, of course. Nate Wilson is our chairman, Christine Shanley-Buck's our vice chair, Mike Bunko's the secretary, and John Moyse and Dave Canute are the other two members that fill out our board. Without their support, we wouldn't be able to move forward, and I can say that they've been very supportive of me since I arrived here. The organizational chart is the same as last year. It hasn't changed. What has changed is our makeup of our department. Currently, we have 71 active volunteers, 22 of them are EMTs, 6 are EMRs. We have 34 career members for a total of 105. That sounds like a lot, but last year at this time, we had 110 members, and we added 2 career, and we just added 13 new volunteers. So in reality, I'm in a negative 20 volunteers since last year. So we're bringing in large numbers, but we're not able to maintain them, and what's happening is they're aging out, or they're taking jobs elsewhere, or they get into learning about the fire department and they realize this really isn't for them. Out of the 13 new members that started a month ago, we've already lost 2. They've decided that firefighting is actually like work. And that's not, when people hear volunteer, they think of going to work at the food bank or working at the Y or doing something like that, not going out when it's freezing cold, pouring down rain, middle of the night. They don't think of it in those terms. And that when they start learning about that, they're not as interested anymore. And the younger generation today, they're not as much into hands-on. We're very thankful for the members that we do get, and we've actually taken on some that are going to probably move on to try to become career firefighters here in town. So we encourage that, and we look for it because we're investing in their training. We'd like them to be able to stay here in town. So, but as we move forward, we're still looking at declining numbers of volunteers, even with, and I'll talk about the recruitment program in just a little bit, But even with an aggressive recruitment program, we're still having difficulties. To kind of give you an idea of where we are, in 2009, we ran 1,782 calls. That averages about 4.8 calls per day. Last year, we ran 2,361 calls, which means we're now averaging 6.4 calls per day. That's an increase of 24% over a 10-year period. Our call volume is definitely climbing, and as of this morning, we're at about 6.6 calls per day. It's become just a very busy period for us. There is a breakdown of calls by days of the week. Tuesdays and Fridays are our busy days. But as you look, you can see that a lot of it it's pretty equal across the board. Calls by time of the day, our busiest time, of course, is between 7 in the morning and 5 at night. And that's where 72% of our calls actually occur. So that's our busy time. I give you a breakdown of the different incidents that we run to, fires, alarms, service calls, auto accidents, EMS calls. That's what we go to. That's every single day. We're out handling the emergencies for the town.
Chief, sorry, before you get off that page, Chief.
What's that?
Are the more serious incidents rising?
Fire service is one of those things where we may go a month with nothing really major happening, or we could go 2 days with things happening.
Average out over a year, I mean.
Well, over a year, actually, last year was our highest dollar loss year in like 20 years because we lost Tops.
Right.
That was $6 million, which was a big loss to this town. Just 2 weeks ago, East Johnson Ave, we lost a home there. Heavy fire when we arrived. The wintertime, we tend to have more fires. We've been lucky. We had a fire on Bristol that if the police hadn't been on a road job 1 block over, we probably would have lost the house and potentially lost a life in that. But because the police saw the fire on the back deck from the other street, we were able to get there very quickly and bring it under control without it having major damage to the home. So, sometimes luck is with us, and sometimes luck isn't with us. And East Johnson, the home was it was a total loss. Luckily, the people got out safely, and we got there, and that was one of those fires where people talk about, you hear, I'm sure everybody in this room's heard about how the career and volunteer don't get along. I can tell you firsthand, witnessed, it was a seamless operation. We had career and volunteer both there, and I couldn't be more proud of every one of them that was there that night. Worked hard, and it was a very labor-intensive fire. We had a lot of hose to pull, a lot of walls. The ceilings were covered with tongue and groove wood, so for us to remove that meant we had to get chainsaws in to cut into the wood. It was a very labor-intensive call. So.
Are the other highway crashes going up? Or is that stabilized? Stabilized, the wrong word. But.
Yeah, it's. I would say we're on an increase. Some days we respond to accidents 3 or 4 times. Some days, we're one. We've had several very serious accidents on the highway in the last couple months, and there's been loss of life involved. It's a lot of it has to do with weather. We've had I don't want to say mild winter, knock on wood, but we haven't had a lot of ice this year. Ice and all, we know that when we start getting ice, our call volume goes up for those.
Yeah, good.
So.
Okay, thank you.
One of the statistics that I found that as I'm putting things together, I love numbers. I love statistics. I love to be able to quantify what we're doing. And one of the things that I found out is that 20% of the time we have multiple calls going on at the exact same time. And 78% of those multiple calls occur Monday through Friday between 7 in the morning and 5 at night. So those are our really busy times, and that's when we strive to get everybody in the department, including myself, the assistant chief, the deputy chief, we're all responding to calls to ensure that we're providing the service to the citizens that we say we are. One of the things that I did want to bring up is the number of firefighters needed for a one-story building. And right now it's 12. At night we do very well. We get the number, not in time that I would like, but we do get the numbers that we need. Monday through Friday, if you'll notice, I end up with usually 6. And that means that we fall a little bit short. And we're going to be working on long-term plans to try to address some of those issues. Working with the town manager to kind of come up with a plan for the next 10 years for the organization, kind of look for where we need to be. With the volunteers, it's not just about numbers. That's one of the things that everybody talks about all the time. You need more volunteers, you need more numbers, you need more people. You know, what I need is a group of volunteers that are going to respond consistently and do it quickly. That's the key to everything we do. I have a really good, dedicated core group of volunteers that I can say I can depend on probably 7 days a week. No problem, but they're all getting older. And as they get older, more things happen. You know, we start getting injured, things start happening, and they age out. We don't see the dedication in the volunteers, the younger ones coming in, like we saw from a group that we have right now that are the older ones running kind of things. And I'm very thankful for that group. And, you know, Company 2, it's Doug Badgley. If anybody here knows him, his employer lets him come to every call during the day. And some days, that's 5 calls in a day that they let him leave his job to come and respond on fires. So I'm thankful for people like that, and I'm thankful for employers like that. But there aren't many employers like that anymore. Because if you're running a business, how many times can you let your employees all run out the door and then expect to stay in business? You know, and if you can let all those people go all the time, the question would always be, then why do I need them? You know, so that's the problem in society today. So one of the things that most people think the fire department does is we go to fires. That's the picture in here. They think that's all we do. We do much more than that. We respond on EMS calls. We respond to service calls to help citizens. You get locked out of your house, who do they call? They call us. We go and get people into their home because it's a service we provide to the citizens here. We respond on auto accidents, rescue calls, hazmat calls. We go out and do public safety training. We reach out to the public in a lot of different ways. And I'll talk about that in just one second about our community risk reduction as our one unique service that we provide. And that is we get out into the public. Our community risk reduction is a multifaceted program. It includes things like fire inspections to ensure that our commercial structures are safe for people to be in, and if there is a fire, they're able to get out. We have fire investigations. We do public safety. We go out and talk to the public. We go out and we spend a lot of times during the fire prevention period of like mid-September through November, we're in almost every school. We're very involved in the fire drill programs for all the schools. Found out last year for the grant program, they needed to have the fire department or somebody from public safety witnessing their drills or they can't count it for grant money. And we all know that we want all the grant money that we can get. So we now make sure that we're there. Chief Paul coordinates with the schools to make sure that we have somebody there for all the fire drills when they need us. So we spend a lot of time working with that. One of the programs as part of the community risk reduction is our home safety inspection program. Been a huge success for us. We advertise it at different places like Apple Harvest, the Family Fun Fest, all these different areas, and people sign up and say, we'd like you to come in and look at our home and see whether we have any, problems in our homes. We go out and we probably do 30 of them a year, and we've had such tremendous feedback, positive feedback from that program. So we'll go in, we'll do a fire safety audit of your home, we'll check your smoke detectors and replace them as necessary, check your carbon monoxide detectors, replace them as necessary. And we do that. We provide the smoke detectors and the CO detectors, and the majority of that program is funded through donations made to the department. I'll give you numbers on what we've did last year. February 19 to February of 2020, we did 479 smoke alarm checks. We installed 99. We did 166 carbon monoxide alarm checks, and we installed 76. The best thing that we can do as a fire department is prevent a tragedy from happening. So smoke detectors and CO alarms are extremely important. If we come to your house and you need one, we're going to put it in, because we believe this is the best way to save somebody's life. You can always replace possessions. You can't replace a loved one. So the smoke alarm program is probably one of the things that we get on a fairly constant basis, people asking, or we go to your home and you say my CO detector keeps chirping. We come in, we'll check your home, we'll make sure there's no CO problems, and if need be, we'll replace your detectors. So it's a very, very positive program for the organization, and we've gotten some really good positive feedback on the program. Some of the things that were new in the budget was our volunteer recruitment. The chairman of the Fire Commission and the Fire Commission itself, along with the command staff, felt that we needed to have a more aggressive recruitment program. So they put one together. We have one of the commissioners chairs the committee, and they go out and actively recruit at all these events. They have a schedule almost every month of the year. They're out doing recruitment. And like I said, this year we had 13, which is pretty close to the highest number we've ever recruited for one class. We do class twice a year in January and July. So this year it very successful. But again, those 13 that we took in wasn't enough to sustain even where we currently are. If we continue down the path that we're going, next year I will be down another 5, 6, 7, unless there's something that happens that stems that tide. So, the other area that we've worked very hard on is the overtime savings. Since I've taken over, the budget that ended just before I started here was $918,272. This year I project our overtime budget to be about $545,000. Since I've been chief, we haven't had to come back and ask for any additional funding to fund our overtime. We're finding ways to reduce the overtime every day.
How'd you do it?
What's that?
How did you do it?
Restructuring the organization. One is in a couple pages back from where you are. We changed our response matrix to reduce down the amount of apparatus responding, which means it reduced down the callback for the career. We've changed the career callback program, and we're further refining that program now to reduce it down. That's about $137,000. When I took over, about $137,000 a year went into the callback program, and I'm projecting, last year I did, we cut it by about $80,000 almost. That's where we're getting our savings. Now, with that said, that means that I'm putting that where a lot of our career firefighters, when they were hired here, they were told there's unlimited overtime. Move into town, respond on every call. Okay, the world has changed. Okay, that's, first off, we couldn't afford to continue to go down that path, and it wasn't reasonable to do so. But we're further refining the program to try to reduce it down even further. But I think I'm reaching probably about my bare bones minimum of where I can be in overtime with the current staffing. Some of the other things that I did is I moved daytime firefighters.
I'm sorry, just a very quick question on that.
Yeah.
Actually, this is more for Amelia. The year-to-date spend when you produced this was on overtime was 345,213, and I was wondering how many pay periods that was.
This would have been through February.
February.
We had
18th is when I
18.
submitted, so.
That's probably when we printed it, was the,
One pay period.
yeah.
I can tell you right now, we're at 70.9% of our overtime budget, and we've got about 30% of the budget year left.
Right, correct.
So we're pretty much coming in close to where we need to be, and any overage that I'll have, I'll be able to absorb within my budget. And each year, we're trying to do better. The overtime, I know that was like one of my very first mandates. I hadn't even started yet, and I got a note that said, here are a couple things that you need to take care of as soon as you get here. And I have. You know, I've worked very hard, and like I said, it's been sort of on the backs of the career firefighters because they had grown used to a certain amount of overtime that no longer goes. And I understand that. I lived in a system like that where there was a lot of overtime and then it came to an end, and you would have thought the world came to an end because you grow accustomed to the amount of money that you're making. That's where your lifestyle goes. And when that money is cut back, what happens? So we're trying to deal our very best with the career to keep them happy and satisfied, because I don't want to lose any of them because it's expensive to replace them. If they were to leave and we had to hire, then we got to send them to fire school, and all that's expensive, so that's a consideration. That's the department, okay? This year, you know, we've in the last year, we have been working very hard to work within the budget that is provided for us. I'm a very fiscally conservative individual. That's how I was raised in the fire service. I believe that the money that I'm provided, I have to do the best that I can with the funds that I'm provided. Now, for the coming budget year, if you're looking at it, you will see that like regular wages went up 9.4%. That was because there'll be 3 years worth of pay raises in that, because last year we had 2 pay raises that weren't accounted for in our budget because the contract hadn't been struck yet. So that's affecting our 9.4%. Overtime pay has a direct impact. The amount that we're requesting it go up this year is to cover the amount of overtime. At the $500,000 mark, I'm at my bare bones minimum, and so that increase in the overtime accounts for the pay increases, the percentage of pay increases that have gone up. So it's not that I'm looking for extra money. I'm just trying to cover the basis where I am right now. Longevity, it looks like a significant increase, but it's only $400. The stipends, that looks like a huge increase because what we've done is we've combined several areas of the budget into the stipend account, because we used to have what everybody would say, you have your volunteer account and you have your career account. No, I don't. I have the Southington Fire Department account. My responsibility is the entire department. So what we've done is we've just incorporated money into categories where it should lie. So in reality, where it looks like it's gone up 256%, it really hasn't. It just means we've moved the volunteer money down into the stipend account. And there is some increase in that because of contractual agreements within the union contract. Training services, again, it's an increase because the cost of doing business for the fire service is going up. Contracted services, one of the things that I have found since I've been here, there are certain services that we should have been contracting, like maintaining fire suppression systems within the fire stations. We never really accounted for it in our budget, but we're required by law to do it. So as I'm moving forward, I'm finding things that haven't been done in the past that we're required to do. Snow removal is the big one. The reason is we had one company bid on the contract. We used to budget $13,000 a year. 2 snows this year, I was out of money because it now costs me about $900 per station times 4 stations for each snow. And that's only if it's 2 to 4 inches. 4 to 6 inches, you tack on more. 6 to 10 inches is more, and above 10 inches, it becomes an hourly rate. So where we had a really good deal before at $13,000, that doesn't anywhere near cover what would be a normal winter. This winter hasn't been normal yet, and we're not out of it, so I don't want to jinx myself. But again, we're moving money around within our budget. But if that's outside of our control, we can't control the contract. Refuse removal, again, is, contracted services. That's going up. Building maintenance, that's mainly just to stay up with where we currently are, that increase. Uniforms, fire equipment, and legal fees. Legal fees, we cut last year $10,000 because we weren't going to be negotiating. We begin negotiations again this year, and we will see. So we had to restore that $10,000 to ensure there's enough money to cover legal fees during negotiations. And that's our budget. Any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. First off, great job in lowering the overtime since you were hired, because that was one of our goals that we wanted the new chief, is to lower overtime. That was a big thing for the Board of Finance, and you did a great job. I know you were looking to try and add 2 firefighters in this budget. It didn't get into the budget, and the best way to get into the budget is a SAFER grant, which I guess has to be approved by the town council. That's the most cost-effective way, right? And the town council did not give the approval this year.
Let me see.
Is that my
I think here's where I am in this. Do I believe I need more people? Yes. But I think we need to have a plan that actually sets forward where we need to be. And one of the things that I'm working on is trying to do a master plan. And the master plan then will help guide us, provide us with a roadmap for the future of where the fire department needs to be. So that would be the best way to answer that. Can I stand here and tell you I don't need people? No, because I do believe. But I think we need to have a plan that lays out a logical way to get where we need to be and being financially responsible in that process.
So that's a short term. I was going to ask you what your short-term goal is, having the plan. And that plan's going to be, how's that plan?
We'll be coming to you
through.
Let me backtrack a second. The answer to your question is no, the council did not reject 2. The question was it beneficial this year to move forward with 2? And with the consensus between my office, the chief's office, and the council, the answer is no. So it was not the council saying, no, you cannot have 2. The issue was it did not give the bang for the buck they were looking for. That set aside, the chief and I, as well as the council, believe that we need a master plan. And that was in, and obviously the fire commission does too, was in their budget for this year. but it's not in their budget because we're moving forward with it prior to the budget. And I'll be coming to you at your March meeting for a special appropriation for $77,000.
And that's to do, that's to have an outside,
Master plan, and the chief could explain the master plan.
Master plan for the fire department is, it takes a lot of things. It does what they call standards of coverage, which means it tells us where our fire stations are located, how well we're providing the service, do we have the right number of people, how many people do we really need, or do we need people? And then it goes into that, and then it goes into things like looking at our buildings. What is the condition of our buildings? What does some of the future things that we're going to need to look at for our buildings, our apparatus, our training program, and then it helps us develop a strategic plan for 3, 5, 7, 10 years down the road. And if we don't have a roadmap, every year we'll be having the exact same conversation. What is really the need? One of the first things that I identified when I took over as fire chief is we needed a master plan, but it cost money and it wasn't in the cards for my budget at that time. Right now, I think it's probably our best course of action is to develop this master plan. It'll take anywhere from 4 to 6 months to do it. The company that we're looking at doing it will come in. They'll talk to elected officials. They'll talk to the commission. They'll talk to citizens, businesses, the town manager. They're going to talk to all the stakeholders in it, the volunteers, the career. They're going to look at the entire package. And then they're going to make a recommendation and give us a very thorough report. I've read 4 of their reports that they've done, and I like them because they're very plain spoken. In other words, a lot of times you get reports and the average person looks at it and they go, what are they trying to say? This report is in clear, plain language. So I believe this is our best course of action, and it will help guide us for the future. There'll be no more, well, do we need it or don't we need it? There'll be a very clear plan forward, and I'll be working with the town manager once the report comes in to kind of develop a plan for the future for us.
that makes sense, I agree. Yeah.
So I hope you'll support that when it comes to you in March. So.
I have a question. I'd like to know how we are prepared for, and if we are prepared for PFAS in our systems.
Right now, one of the problems we're running into is that everywhere you go, it exists. Right. I mean, a big talk is about firefighting foam. Okay, that is an area that once it's released, yes, it is there. But it is in our everyday. If you have Teflon pans at home, you have them in there. If you have waterproofing on your clothes, you have them in there. Some pizza boxes have them in there. It is so invasive in our society now, but they're trying to eliminate them. On the fire department side, when it comes to the firefighting foam, we're waiting for the state to come out with the plan for what we're going to do. Right now, it looks like we're going to end up having to foot the cost to replace it, but the state will take to destroy it. Because destroying it, Massachusetts found out the hard way. They collected it all up, replaced it all, and they said, okay, now let's get rid of it. And they couldn't find anybody in the United States to do it. It has to go to Canada to be destroyed. All of a sudden, the cost went up like triple what they were planning on it being. I think Connecticut's looking at that and learning from that mistake. And, you know, we were hoping there would be funding to replace the foam for us, but not looking that way. And the new foam that's out on the market costs us twice as much as what the current foam is. So we're looking at about anywhere from $25 to $40 a gallon. Each container is 5 gallons, so we're looking at about $200 a container, and there's about 50 containers that we kind of maintain. So there's a cost to it.
How frequently is it used currently?
Not very frequently. It's typically, you find it when we have fires involving fuels, you know, gasolines and things like that. And for a while, we were using them on car fires because car fires can be notoriously difficult to put out. And now we've cut way back, and anytime we use it, we have to do it as a reporting to the state that we've had a release and where it could potentially go.
Thank you.
It's one of those things that it's everywhere in our society. But firefighting foam, I always joke I've been playing in it since I was 18 years old, and hasn't affected me yet, but
Yeah. We played with.
maybe it has. No,
We played with mercury when we were kids,
yeah,
you know?
but it is a known cancer-causing agent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very much, and it's what's considered a forever chemical. It's very difficult to break it down, and in nature, it doesn't break down. There are companies out there now that are developing technologies that might be able to break the bond on it, and if they can, once they've developed that technology, it'll be easier to dispose of it, and it won't be a forever chemical. It's very expensive to take out of our water system, though. That's where the problem comes, is once it gets into our drinking water, it's very difficult first to detect, and it's also very difficult to filter it out.
Thank you.
I had another question. Can you just give a quick overview of your capital projects?
Capital projects. Right now, we don't have a lot in the way of capital projects. We have a ladder truck, which will be next budget year.
Yeah.
And we have some vehicles. Roof to Company 5, which I believe is in the budget. It's listed right now for the year after next.
Anything this year?
Just a small vehicle, $60,000.
Yeah.
What kind of vehicle is that?
Page 199.
That's their, we call them C1, 2, and 3, right?
Yes.
ATV?
What we're trying to do is.
SUV.
Yeah. We're trying to get the cars out of our system within 10 years. The reason is that at the 10-year mark, that's where it starts costing a lot of money. So if we replace a car each year, that puts us just at about that mark.
It's on 199.
Yeah.
We just finished our latest update on our apparatus, and I'll be presenting that to the town manager probably at our next meeting that I meet with him. Just finished it up this week. So, and that takes us, the last plan ran out this year.
And as we go farther, most of the engines that we have are certainly under a certain amount. The latter one, we may want to break up over several years because of this. You don't want to take a big hit in 1 year. So we'll talk about that. Obviously, I don't want to talk about this budget, but when we talk about the, the section that we have about future budget issues,
Yeah.
Probably in the next, as soon as this budget's out, we'll talk about how we want to handle some capital things because it does work out sometimes when you put it off split up over 2 or 3 years. It may to soften the blow in essence.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about that part later.
The new fire trucks, the design is holding up. We like it.
Actually, I'm very pleased with the manufacturer that we're using currently. I've been involved with the fire service for a long time, and some of the companies that were very good years ago, the quality of the material and the workmanship has gone down. I don't believe that's happened with our current vendor. I'm, like I said, very, very pleased. I thought that would be one of the first places that I would make a change because, you become brand loyal in the fire service a lot of times. And I started looking at things and talking with the assistant chief, who is my expert on apparatus, and come to find out that we actually get a really good deal here, and it's good quality material. Fire engines and ladder trucks are designed to stay in service front line for 15 years and then 10 years of second line service. And at 25 years, they're considered obsolete because of safety factors, and there's a lot of different things that go into it. So we get about a 25-year lifespan out of a piece of major apparatus.
We have, 3 in the pipeline right now, Chief?
Two in the pipeline. We just got
for the
one
last
in.
3 years, right?
Okay. We have a tanker for Station 2 that will be in sometime late spring, and we just started the process for a rescue pumper. We're changing some of our concept to bring the cost down of what we're doing. So we go into a different concept a little bit, and that one will be in probably next year at about this time. That's the other thing is once you order a piece of fire apparatus, it is a year before you see it. It's that long of a build because the manufacturers are that behind on production. So, and that's every one of them. Every single apparatus builder out there, of the probably 10 of them, major ones out there, they're all 1 year out.
What about small stuff? We have ATVs and boats and...
For the most part, we're doing okay there. We will have to look at our brush truck, which is, I forget, 80s. But it's a brush unit, and you don't want anything really nice, shiny, and all for that. It's designed to kind of go places that you don't want to put other apparatus. So, as I like to call them, the junkers. They go out, and because you can beat them up, and you're not, doing any real harm to them. But probably in the next 5-6 years, it'll be something we're definitely going to have to consider. We'll have to look at those things. So, but other than that, I think we're in fairly good shape.
I have one thing though, and of course everybody knows that I listen to the scanner pretty regular. When you got to do rescues on the mountain, I know you use mutual aid, but a lot of times I'd like to see the unit that I know it's expensive, but.
Well, one of our major problems with that is that a UTV would absolutely be great. The only problem is I don't have anybody to get it where it needs to be, and the cost of maintaining it for something I may only use once or twice a year, and I can borrow it from Meriden or New Britain or Plainville and get the exact same thing there and not actually have to fund the cost of maintaining it and training people on it, and the lack of use. When there's a lack of use on those kinds of vehicles, they don't hold up well. They're designed to be used on a fairly regular basis. If I had, staffing that I could get it where it needed to be in a timely manner, but my choice would be to take that or take a piece of equipment that has all the other equipment on it that I'm going to need there. It's in my the capital plan, but it's years out. I have to weigh out when I look at the budget, what's going to give me my biggest bang, what are my most important needs, and I think that I have other needs that rise a little bit higher than that.
Well, I differ on that, and I don't differ too often with anybody, but I differ on that for my own personal reasons. Mark, you know my story.
No, I understand.
I can't put a price on anybody's life, because I say the same thing when years ago when I was on the council on AMR, and we needed an extra ambulance, but I understand the reasoning.
The chief and I talked about this, and I fully support the chief's position. This isn't a fire. This is one where someone's lost on the mountain. You got Meriden, you got Berlin, and you got New Britain. This is regionalization. We also share our stuff with those towns. So this is one when you use
Absolutely.
when you use it a very short period of time, and it's 1 or 2 times a year, possibly. Regionalization is where that is, because that's not where you want to put town assets. But obviously, in unlimited funds, I would agree with you. But this, I agree with the chief. You got to see what's most important to you at this point.
Okay.
I mean,
and if it wasn't there,
I wouldn't feel correct if I didn't bring it out.
No, and I agree with you if it was unlimited funds. But in the world that we live in,
I accept that.
Yep. Okay.
I understand what you're saying and where you're coming from, but when I have to weigh out, I have X number of dollars and X number of projects, I have to prioritize the projects to make sure that I'm getting the biggest bang for my buck and the citizens are getting the biggest bang for their buck.
I realize that, and when I say I'm stopped, I call it end of report.
How are the 2 new firefighters doing?
They've saved us about $35,000 in overtime so far.
That's a good thing.
Is that what you were looking for?
My second question is, no, I mean, just, going the overtime. obviously, you didn't do the 500K this year was in the budget, but frankly, I don't think we expected you to, because it was 550, and that's looked to be what it was like. And there was no, when the change was made, there was no operational, stuff behind it. So I figured, okay, we got 550. And obviously you're coming very close to that. But I was a little disappointed to hear you say that you're getting close to the bare bones, in the sense that, does that mean there's no operational changes, protocol changes that could drive that down, even further? Now, it's never going to be zero. It's going to be certainly a large amount. But does that mean that we'll never make improvement in that kind of number?
No. What I'm saying is, at my current staffing levels, it's going to be difficult to do that, because I can absorb the loss of one person on a shift each day, right, because we hired those 2 firefighters. But if I have 2 people off, that means that automatically costs me overtime. If I have 3 people off, that means I'm paying 2 spots of overtime. So, as long as our staffing levels are where they are, around the $500,000 mark is probably where we're going to be. I'm looking to reduce down the callback overtime some more, but I don't want to commit to that until I actually see what my savings will be. One thing I will not do is come in here and tell you I'm going to have $100,000 in savings and then come back to you and say, well, it's only $10,000. I'm not going to do that. I want to make sure that the information that I give you is factual. And I'm very conservative in my estimates. So I'm actually pretty surprised that we're going to come very close to the 545 mark this year.
You're not surprised, Chief, that's the way it was planned. You're coming right at the perfect budget.
Yeah.
Well, it's not a surprise, it's the way you manage the department.
Yeah. No, but no, we do. We constantly look. Out of everything I do, every morning I look at overtime. Every single morning. And I'm talking probably 6 days a week, because I know that is the major concern. So I'm constantly looking for ways that we can save. And we're working on it. But I can't commit to any more until we try some other things to see where we are.
Okay. The salaries, the salaries obviously drove most of this increase. It was like 97K, and 45 was overtime, and then everything else was bits and pieces. 20K here, 20K there. But could you explain the salary to me, in the sense that, is this the last year we're in of the contract?
This next budget that we this coming budget is the last year of a 3-year contract, and we absorbed it all between last year and now.
Right.
So basically, that's what's happening to us. We're coming up to about a 7% increase, but remember, it's compounded, because we had the first pay raise, then the second pay raise, and now this one. Each one of those compounds, and when that happens, that's puts us a little bit higher. So,
so I understand that, and I understand why that obviously drives the numbers up. But the next contract, will this same thing happen, do you think, or is it just, or is it impossible to predict negotiations?
I would not want to be in a position to predict negotiations.
We'll begin negotiations a year from now for a contract that'll be expiring June 30th of next year. I agree with the chief. I've probably been involved in 50 union negotiations, and they're all different and all unpredictable.
Because it would be a shame if that happened again, because it's just a blip. That,
well, the thing is, if we'd have signed the contract, if we'd gotten a contract negotiated and signed before the budget and all, it wouldn't have looked quite this way.
I get it, yeah.
So that's where the problem is that because we couldn't come to a negotiated settlement until after this after this budget had been struck for this year.
again.
That's what puts us in this position.
And if you notice, the Public Works one was 4, almost 5, so that was 1 year layover. This was a double year layover, that's why the bigger number.
No,
Yeah.
I understand. It's just, if it could be avoided again, it'd be great, but that's up to the negotiation, I suppose.
Did you take my first offer of you all?
It's
Actually,
amazing how unreasonable people are, Mark, isn't it?
I think that if we do negotiations like we did it this time, I think we'll be a little more successful again in trying to get where we need to be.
Any other questions? Commissioners have anything to add, or? Thank you for being here in support. Thank you, Chief. Deputy Chief.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure, and thank you you did what we had wanted, though. You looked at things, not just overtime, but it was really all about efficiencies. And making sure we were efficient before we added people. That had been the concern all along. It reared its head and it presented as overtime. But the whole thing was, are we running efficiently? Are we doing all we can before we go into the personnel conversation?
And we looked at everything. We had more fire apparatus than we actually should have because every piece costs you maintenance costs. And if I didn't need it, I didn't want to have to pay for it. Because, again, dollars are precious. And so we were slowly kind of weeding out what we don't need.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Okay.